All right, our next presenters are from Avance Clinical. They are Yvonne Lungershausen, the CEO, and Gabriel Cremidiotis, he's the Chief Scientific Officer. They're going to delve into key strategies for conducting successful early phase oncology trials for biotechs, highlighting Avance Clinical's extensive experience in delivering tailored oncology trials, emphasizing the Australian regulatory advantages, their strong global reach, and end-to-end service capabilities. We'll also hear insights into adaptive trial designs, patient population selection, and emerging oncology therapeutics like CAR-T and gene therapies. Welcome, Yvonne and Gabriel.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be talking to this audience today. I'm actually calling from doing this presentation from Australia. It's 12:30 a.m. here, and despite the late of the hour, I'm really excited to be telling the audience about the way we do early phase oncology at Avance, taking advantage of including Australia and executing studies across Australia and the US. As you indicated, there will be two presenters today. I will talk more specifically about our oncology portfolio first, and then the CEO of the company, Yvonne, will tell you a little bit more about an overview for Avance Clinical. So without further ado, just telling you that Avance Clinical is a full-service contract research organization providing services, particularly for biotechnology companies, through the early phases of their clinical development, starting from preclinical discovery, utilizing our clinic-ready services, and then pivoting to early mid-phase clinical trial development using our global-ready team. We don't specialize in a particular indication. We have conducted trials and have a proven record in doing trials in over 120 indications. But obviously what I wanted to concentrate on in the ensuing slides is to talk a little bit more about our oncology portfolio. So our oncology portfolio is about 20% of the projects that we do, and they concentrate specifically in the early phase development part. So from discovery to getting to proof of concept and completion of phase 2 clinical trials. Our presence in Australia and US is particularly key to the strategy that is, I believe, unique to Avance and what you may hear from some of our competitors. And I would like to talk a little bit more about that strategy, which has as its cornerstone the development of products through the early phases, starting in Australia and then expanding in the US. And in particular, what you will hear probably from Yvonne and from me is the advantage of the R&D rebate that is offered in Australia. So for every dollar that is spent on R&D in Australia, one can claim back 43.5 cents as a tax rebate, which is a tremendous advantage from a budgetary perspective. So we support our clients end-to-end for their oncology trials, from trial study designs, development of protocols, preparation of investigator brochures, all the way to the analysis of the data and the preparation of a clinical study report. And like everybody else, our primary priority is generating high-quality data. So the cornerstones of the strategy that I will describe to you today include first of all the Australian proposition. Initiating a trial and study in Australia takes advantage of a streamlined regulatory process and of the tax rebate that I mentioned. So we are able to deliver within 5 or 6 weeks study startups. And again, the big advantage of executing such studies in Australia is the return of 43.5 cents for every dollar spent. Very important is the transition of a program at the right time from Australia to opening it up in the US, as we transition from first in human phase 1 to phase 2 proof of concept type studies. Strategic interaction with the IND, with the FDA through the IND is very important, and I will tell you a little bit more about how we execute that with our clients. And of course, the appropriate and strategic regulatory navigation, taking advantage of some potential special designations when appropriate for some of the projects that we deal with. Most importantly, I wanted to emphasize to you, as we look at these programs, we look at them as a continuum from preclinical to proof of concept. And that includes the first in human, the phase 2 as a continuum. And the way we structure it, we try and maximize the return from an R&D tax incentive available in Australia to our clients. So for example, when we have sites open in the US, we run all the back-end services in Australia. And for all those services, they stand to gain the benefit of the rebate. I just wanted to talk a little bit more specifics here. So I know you're all familiar with this graph. This is a typical sort of study that we work through with our clients as first in human oncology, the typical dose escalation to get to an MTD and then pivoting to a dose expansion, either as a monotherapy in 3 or 4 tumor types, or in many instances, including early evaluation of combination with other approved agents. Certainly checkpoint inhibitors is a very popular combination partner for the studies that we work with. So what I wanted to take you through is how does this study plot across the continuum of the discovery to proof of concept using our strategy. So we usually interact with our clients and we encourage them to talk to us before they have a pre-IND meeting and before they look to plan their pivotal GLP toxicology studies. We specifically discuss with them what in our experience are the requirements. We consult with the FDA in terms of working with our clients through a pre-IND meeting and get initial opinion of the agency in terms of the planned GLP toxicology studies, but also the planned clinical trials with particular emphasis on the phase 1. Then we proceed into opening the first in human study in Australia and executing it in Australia, taking advantage, as I said, of the streamlined regulatory, being able to start the study really quickly, but also from a budgetary perspective with the R&D tax incentive. And the currency exchange, it provides for a quick execution of the first in human study. During the execution of the first in human study, particularly when we get to the MTD and we pivot to the dose expansion, as I described in the previous study, it's the time to start preparing for an IND submission with the center point being the phase 2, the planned phase 2 clinical trial. At that point, we have the benefit of all the preclinical toxicology data sets and also the benefit of the safety profile and any early preliminary efficacy that we see during the dose escalation that we execute in Australia. And all that is included in the submission to the IND submission to the FDA. The trial then pivots into the phase 2, where we retain the clinical sites that were involved in the phase 1 in Australia, and we open up sites in the US. And that puts us in a really good position then to execute the phase 2 study as part of the continuum, seamlessly transitioning through the different steps from the preclinical to the first in human phase 1 to the phase 2 study, which hopefully leads to the generation of proof of concept for our clients. So some of the key elements that are important to take into consideration as we look at this execution of such studies, some of the elements that I think well recognized in the industry, and we certainly advise our clients to that effect, is selection of the appropriate patient population. Certainly through dose escalation, we are looking for all comers. It certainly lends itself to a quick execution of dose escalation and getting to the recommended phase 2 dose. However, when we pivot to the expansion, this is where biomarkers can be of extreme importance in terms of selecting the right patients for the drug. And by that stage, we are in a position where we can combine both preclinical and clinical efficacy and biomarker data to the benefit of the expansion cohorts and also helping for the planning for the phase 2 study. We always recommend adaptive designs. We believe that there is great value in taking advantage of data that is emerging from the ongoing trial in the way that informs the further progression of that trial. And certainly adaptive designs lend themselves to such flexibility and incorporating data that arise from an ongoing trial. And then last and most importantly, generating solid PK/PD profile for the investigational product in a way that it informs not only dose levels, frequency of dosing, that is going to be a very important element in terms of designing the all-important phase 2 clinical trial. I think one of the previous presenters indicated the number of different therapeutics that we see coming through. Certainly, the industry is moving now beyond the traditional small molecule and antibody approaches. We see CAR T-cell therapies, oncolytic viruses, cancer vaccines, gene therapies. The important thing to note here is that obviously the regulatory knowledge is extremely important in planning, in designing these clinical trials and planning the regulatory strategy for a program from its first in human moving into mid-phase clinical development. The important thing to note is that Australia very much follows ICH guidelines. So what it would be expected here for a program is the same thing that would be expected for an FDA submission. In Australia, we don't have our own guidelines, and that lends itself to this easy transition from doing the studies in Australia and then transitioning to the US. And that holds true for any product type that is under consideration. Adding a little bit to the complexity of what we do for particularly for first-in-human oncology studies, and I think one of the previous presenters quite rightly indicated that there are indeed several different designs. The industry is moving away from the classic 3+3. There is a lot more Bayesian model, statistics-based designs that are now being utilized. But the important thing to note here is that not every design is good for every program. There's certainly some dependencies on the product type, on its safety profile, as what is the best model design to use. And certainly we recommend our clients to talk to us in terms of which one is the best design. We have a dedicated biostatistics team, and we can provide appropriate advice as to which one may be the best design based on the product type and on the safety profile of the product and obviously the objectives. So I just wanted to conclude with 3 key messages of what we recommend. So we recommend approaching us early. Certainly we recommend an early consultation with the FDA through the pre-IND meeting process to get advice on the plans for the program, involving Australia into the equation of executing the early parts of the program as we head towards proof of concept. Doing the first in human in Australia before submission of an IND enables the acquisition of clinical data that is going to be a very valuable data set and data-rich data set as we move to the submission of an IND. And of course, the strength of our proposition and of our strategy is our presence across Australia and US and our ability to structure a program in such a way that maximizes the Australian advantage of early startup, the R&D tax incentive, and seamless transition to the US in heading towards phase 2, completion of phase 2 proof of concept is key to our strategy. So with that, I will conclude my part of the presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I will pass on to to Yvonne to give you an overview of Avance Clinical. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. As Gabrielle has already alluded to, Avance Clinical pretty much works exclusively with biotech clients. And I just want to provide a brief overview of our services and capabilities. And I know Gabrielle's also touched on that we offer a comprehensive end-to-end solution to support any clinical trial. And this is backed by robust scientific and regulatory expertise. And we believe that this is absolutely crucial in being able to support biotechs effectively. This is reinforced by a strong focus on internal training, compliance, and quality assurance oversight. And you can see all of our services there. So to support our biotech customers, we do have a global presence. So Gabriel talked a lot about start fast in Australia, and that is a very strong strategy. But of course, we need to expand once we move into dose expansion and indeed into phase 2 and beyond. And so our presence is across the globe, and we do have access to a strong network of over 2,500 qualified sites, ensuring effective and efficient site selection and patient recruitment, which is essential. So why are biotechs coming to Australia for clinical research services? Gabriel has touched on these, and I will just very quickly reiterate them. But the one very important one is that you do not need your in-country IND to get clinical data in Australia. And indeed, you can use that to support your IND submission. And a lot of our customers actually do that in parallel. It's a great opportunity to make go, no-go decisions on a drug asset, but equally it actually reduces the time frame to move your clinical development program along. So as Gabrielle mentioned, very important to always have that dialogue and pre-IND discussions with the FDA. But you can start your clinical, get your clinical data in Australia, start fast while in parallel getting your FDA IND open so that you can transition very quickly into the US. We have a very rapid startup due to a very streamlined ethics and regulatory process, and generally from submission of protocol and investigator brochure and the necessary documents, we can start in 5 to 6 weeks. Critically important is that all data generated in Australia is globally accepted by EMA, FDA and other regulatory agencies. It's high quality, high integrity. And then Gabrielle has talked about the benefit of extending your cash runway, and that's been critically important over the last few years when money has been so very tight. So I just want to talk a little bit also about our North American operations, which are headquartered in North Carolina. This is important for our strategy, our global ready strategy to start fast in Australia and pivot to the US, but equally important for biotech companies that wanted to stay in the US. So we have personnel spread right across the country, and this ensures seamless operations throughout North America and smooth transitions for a fast start in Australia. Look, I'm not going to, in the interest of time and questions, I'm not going to read through all of this. Suffice to say that, we do understand the need for customized solutions for our biotech clients, and we do avoid a one-size-fits-all approach because the world of drug development is changing so quickly that we need to be responsive, adaptive, and very flexible. We have a strong commitment to quality and obviously look for the best cost-efficient solutions. We have expanded beyond the US because we recognise that patient access is critically important. So patient acquisition and high quality clinical research locations are important to us. So we've established operations in South Korea. We also have now operations in Taiwan, further strengthening our capabilities in the APAC region. We've picked these regions for the reasons that are listed here. These are leading global positions for clinical trials. In terms of oncology, Korea is a very high sought after destination for high quality patients and strong focus and good investigators in terms of the oncology space. There are exceptional sites with those investigators. They also have quite a good fast startup time, 4 to 8 weeks, a little bit longer than Australia, but still quite reasonable and quite fast, and obviously excellence in site quality. So Avance Clinical, we consider ourselves to be your trusted partner, and it should be a partnership. I mean, we all have an aim, and that is to meet unmet need and get approvals or get drugs to patients as quickly as possible. And in that, with that ethos, we like to become embedded in terms of supporting you so that your success is our success. And I think I may be talking very fast, so I apologise if I've talked too fast, but people can come back with questions. And I'm just trying to move my slides on and I can't. Oops.
And I'm getting the
there we are.
notice that we have to move on, Yvonne.
Yep. This is it.
I apologize for that. Yeah.
That's okay. I was pretty well finished.
Okay, so we do have some questions that we're not going to be able to get to. So, but you can see them in the pane there, and you can follow up with them. Thank you very much, Yvonne Lungershausen, the CEO, and Gabriel Cremidiotis. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Both from Avance Clinical. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.